Hello and welcome to June Art Journaling here. Today we're going to work on this very black and white, kind of intense art journaling page, and it's going to be a really great lesson to show you different blacks, and then sometimes you kind of just have to go with what's happening in your head. I am starting with some watercolor paper, the Canson watercolor paper. It's kind of a go-to for me. You'll notice that. I really love the thickness of it. But one of the things we're going to do that's a little bit different today is we're going to cover it in gesso. We're in white gesso, and this is by Golden because it's a little bit thinner and easier to spread on my kind of thick watercolor paper that just likes to soak up moisture. And the reason that I'm covering my paper or prepping my base in gesso is because I'm going to work with black gesso and other blacks today, and I really want them to move on the surface. And so, because my watercolor paper is so porous, if I were to work directly on it, a lot of the moisture from my paint would just soak into the paper, and I wouldn't get as much movement, which is really what I'm going for, fluidity and movement from my paint today. So I'm prepping it with gesso, and the gesso is going to grab the paint as well, but things will sit more on top of it instead of soaking in like they would to the fibrous paper, okay? So just giving this a quick heat dry here, and looks like I missed a couple spots, so that the Golden gesso is kind of thinner than some of them that I use sometimes. And here is a little chipboard giraffe from Unwild Studio, and while I've got my gesso out, I'm just going ahead and covering him. I really had this whole idea in my head of exactly what I wanted to do, and you're going to see in today's page, it's a really great lesson just to know, or just something to understand. Sometimes, and specifically with art journaling, you just have to do what your brain wants, not what you think your brain wants. And so I start with that because I am prepping this giraffe, and I do have an idea for him, and he is in the video, but he doesn't make it to the final page. So yeah, there's that. But just set him to the side. And now I've got some black gesso. This is also by Golden. And you can see it's in a small container because I do take it to art journaling, and we never need to use a lot. But I also got a catalyst by Princeton there, a catalyst wand. And you can see, here's where I was talking about the fluidity. I just spread a really thin layer of that gesso across my page. It's black gesso by Golden across my page, and while it was still wet, I added water. And now I'm just manipulating exactly where I want that kind of fluid gesso to go. I added water. It really thinned it out, and I'll get some like really great gray tones going on here. But I definitely wanted some, just I don't even know. It kind of reminds me of What Dreams May Come. Like I really just wanted some darkness going on here. And now you can see I sopped up the little bit of paint that I had gotten onto my background because that's newsprint. I have a layer of Teflon matte and then newsprint. Because I didn't prep the underside of my paper, if I had put it down on that wet paint, it would have soaked through and we would have gotten a completely different look. So be aware that things like that can happen. So just sop up what you've got. And you can see me here, that little giraffe. I keep playing with him and playing with him and putting him down and picking him up, and he eventually doesn't even make it. And I actually put a couple other things down on the page that I end up not liking as well. And you'll see what I mean about sometimes you just have to go with what your brain wants. This is a new weathered tree that I designed for Viva Las Vegas stamps, and I've stamped that in archival ink. And one of the things you should be aware of, or that I definitely want to point out, is it really depends how your brush strokes are and what kind of texture you've got going in the background, what kind of a stamp you're going to get. So if you've got really heavy brush strokes, your stamp is going to come out with brush strokes in it. But if you create a nice smooth surface, then you'll get a nice smooth stamp. I also did need to camouflage it into the bottom there because I had stamped it a little bit high and the roots were showing, so I just used a little black gesso. And now you can see I'm manipulating more of the left-hand side now that I've got this like really kind of cool, creepy tree going on the right. I put down a little bit of gesso, just like I had before, and added some water. And you can see I pick up my page and I tap it, and that is helping the water run. It's creating force and kind of forcing it down the page to get these really cool drippy effects. I do have a paper towel handy in case I feel like I want to sop up some of the extra water that's happening, or maybe I want it to end up a little bit lighter in that section. And don't forget, you can work in sections, literally. Like I worked on mostly the right hand side, and now I've gone to the left bottom because it's easier to make the water go one way, or the paint, right, or gesso. It's easier to make it go one way and then heat it dry, and I'll turn it over and I'll work on the top as if it were the bottom. And then that way, I'm not trying to force my now fluid gesso back and forth, up and down. I can just work directly. There's that giraffe again. I really thought he would look cool down there, and in the end, I just didn't put him on. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and try him some more. This is an Unwild Studio stencil, and this is another one of those things I was talking about. I put it on there. I didn't like it. I'll end up taking it off. I am using a Stabilo Marksol just to kind of keep you informed, even though I end up not even having this on the page, and the finished page, we didn't even do it in class or anything like that. But I'm tracing the stencil, the inside of the stencil. And then I go in with a watercolor brush, and I just thought that I wanted some kind of other foliage, or I don't even know what I thought I wanted, but I end up really not liking it, and it just seems kind of crude over there compared to our nice detailed tree that's on the right hand side. And even when I pick up some of that blackness back out for highlights, I am just not that impressed. And so because it's water soluble, then even, oh, I did dry it. I was really attempting to like it, I guess. Yeah, because it's water soluble, I can kind of pick it up. But what's important to remember is that there's gesso underneath, and so I've gotten quite a bit of tooth onto my background, and that's kind of why you see that stabilo sticking there. And then this is a stamped piece of tissue paper that had some music notes on it, and it wasn't really blending into the background as well as I wanted. And so I just picked that up back up off too. As long as it's not dry, you can always change it. Oh yeah, here's even more. I really thought in the beginning, like I said, I came with a plan, and I, especially with art journaling, but with all art, like your art is a reflection of yourself. You're going to do the things that your brain has on its that's on your brain, that's on your mind. Like if you're having an upset week, or if you're having a really happy week, or whatever has been happening in your life, if you're stressed or you're calm or you're on vacation or you're under deadlines, etc. And this week I was under a lot of deadlines. I had a lot of stuff to get done in a very short amount of time, and I think my brain had finally just said, that's it. We need to get out some aggression. We need to put some black down. We need to get it out of our brain and be ready to embrace next week wholeheartedly and with an open mind, instead of thinking about all of the stuff that had been just been bogging me down. So every time I put something down and I don't like it, I pick it back up. These are triangles that I just cut, and then I use this, I'm trying to cover up that foliage now, right? And I cut the triangles out of an old map or atlas page that listed a bunch of longitude and latitude numbers, and now I did glue it down. I used the Yoo-hoo stick and then highlighted it, or I guess I gave it a shadow with the Stabilo Marksol. And I'm kind of a fan, but not really sold on it yet. There's that giraffe, trying to figure out where specifically I'm going to put him and what kind of a role he's going to play in my whole page. I did do some splatters, and so that little bottle has half golden fluid acrylic carbon black and half airbrush medium. And I have like 3 different bottles, and that one just has like a really nice thick blot when it happens. Give that a quick heat set, make sure nothing's going to move. And I hope you don't mind that I'm including all these things that I didn't end up leaving there, because I didn't want to miss anything in the video, one, but two, no one is perfect, and we do things that we actually don't intend to, or we change our minds and our brains are all over the place, and it's just important to know that everyone is that way. So I talked a little bit also about the golden fluid acrylic, right, and the airbrush medium. Well, that was just a smaller bottle. That was a fine liner, and I don't mean smaller by volume, but smaller by tip. There's a black is a, what am I trying to say, a 20 gauge fine liner. And I did just do a tiny bit of journaling, add some script in there beneath my tree, and kind of help expand that right side there, and kind of the funny little, I don't even know, like cliff that he's hanging on to. I kind of feel like it's probably some weird metaphor. I did also get out my Lyra aquarelle crayons, and I'm telling you, half of the work I did on this page I took off and didn't keep. But part of my brain was also like, let's add some color and see what happens, and you'll love it. And I hated it, but so I'm adding in some color and kind of coordinating colors together, or colors in the same family, right? Colors that will blend well together. And I'm not sure if I'm just picking up a bunch of that Stabilo that's left on my brush or something. Got to work on cleaning it off, I guess, because then, even though I added these like quote bright unquote colors, they ended up being pretty muddy, and I was really, really, if I thought I was unhappy before, I am really unhappy with these now. I pulled out a Numwa Studio stencil and a Posca marker, paint marker, and I really was trying to salvage those. And then I thought, well, what if I just cover them up? Or what if I just rip them off? And that's actually kind of, I mean, I can still see a little bit of color, which I was not that happy with. And here we go again with those water-soluble products. You can kind of pick them up, but you just have to remember, I started with a gessoed base, and so that gesso has that tooth, and it's really holding on to some of those mediums that I've put down, even though they are water-soluble. And I'm darkening up some areas, and then going back in with some black, and I am going to now mirror on the top what I had worked for on the bottom. And I really do love this page as a finished piece, and it really, really, really speaks to, I don't know, just what kind of week I was having, or month, or maybe even half a year, I don't know, but I really love the way it turned out, and I'm very happy with it. So you can see earlier I talked a little bit about having a paper towel handy to kind of sop up when I've got some extra color. And that's what I do. I add a little bit of water. I move it around, whether I'm tapping it or pushing it with a heat gun or whatever. And then if it seems like it's going to be too dark, then I can sop some up with the paper towel, and I can add some more water and get some more fluidity and really help it start moving around again. And now that I can see where this is going on the left-hand side, I am truly just gaga over it. I really, 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 really adore it. And like I said, sometimes we just need to get some darkness out, get some black out, get some feelings, whatever they are. And the fact that it's so black really opens up a great opportunity for journaling as well. And it also offers up a really great teaching point because different products have different blacknesses to them, and some of them are brown based or red based, and some of them are blue based, and then some of them are just really black, black, black. And so my paints, because my paints were from the same family, they're really blending well together, and even with that kind of archival black. But I will, let's see, yeah, I will pick up a Sharpie marker and something else to do a bit of journaling. Oh yeah, and my fine liner. I did add some more splatters, and with the fine liner, they're thinner than with that other bottle. And I just squeeze the bottle a bit and then flick my wrist towards the page. Make sure everything's heat set because all the products that I'm using now, except for that Stabilo and the Lyras, are permanent. They're not water soluble. So if I just make sure that everything's heat dry, then I can continue on top, layering on top. And now, so that these are some of the things that you could journal with on top of this black. And the really great thing is that because there's a black base there, if I journal with black, no one can see it, right? So I can just write about everything that's driving me crazy. I did decide to go with the Sharpie, and at the end here, I'll put a close-up photo so you can see, but the blacks are different, and it's almost a little bit metallic on top of my paint, so you can see it. But if I write, and then turn it to the side and write, I can turn it back, write. I just keep layering it up, then then it'll never be legible, and which is really great for me. But some other things you could write with the Stabilo Marxol, because then you could even add water to it and really blend it out. You could use the Faber-Castell Pitt pens. You could use microns. You could use the Posca paint marker. You could just use a ballpoint pen. It doesn't really matter, and you could just go with it, right? So sometimes I really just want to say at the end, don't be afraid to go with what your brain wants or what your heart wants or what you think you should do versus what you want to do. You saw today about half the things that I put down, I took back up, and it's okay. I really enjoyed the final page here. I can't wait to put it into a journal. All right. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye.